All right, 2:05. The Mets go down into Baltimore for a rare series in Camden Yards. So figured, especially if you Met fans, unlike the Yankee fans who know the Orioles so well, who don't know the Orioles well, figured we'd get a little bird's eye view of the hard hitting and pitching deprived birds as the Mets go down. Jimmy Hunter's been doing their games forever. That's about how long I've known him, and we bring him into the program now. Jimmy, how are you?
Mike, it's great to hear from you. How you doing?
Good, and I tell you, folks, for you old Yankee fans, Jimmy's father produced and directed the Yankee games for 1,000,000 years back in the old PIX days. So I know Jimmy forever, and his father is a familiar name and one you should know from the Yankee games. For what years will we be talking about exactly, Jimmy?
He was there from 56 to 92.
56 to 92.
He started with Red Barber and ended with Messer Rizzuto and Bill White. So he saw everybody.
For anybody who ever
and all those guys.
For anybody who ever watched the Yankees for all those years on PIX, Jim's dad was the one who was doing the games. Now, the Orioles, as the Mets come in, are a intriguing offensive team, Jimmy, and a rather good one, to be honest with you. I mean, not just because of the park. You got a lot of good young players now, and it's an exciting young offensive team.
Yeah, they're really beginning to come around. Andy McPhail, in his 2 years here, in fact, his 2-year anniversary, I believe, is this week because he took over midseason a couple of years ago. But he's really put an emphasis on trying to avoid the quick fix, build through the system, whether that be trades or draft picks, and develop them, and let those players tell you when they're ready to contribute here, as opposed to previous regimes where you're trying to compete with the Yankees and Red Sox in this division. You sign the free agent, and then he gets here, and you find out he's past his prime. So they've drafted really well. The outfield right now is set for the future. You got a 23-year-old in left field, a 23-year-old in center field, and Adam Jones is a rising star. And Markakis is in his 4th year, and he's only 25. Wieters is now here behind the plate. Roberts is only 31, but he's an all-star. So except for the 11 games leading into Saturday where they the whole team went into a slump at the same time, one of the strangest things I ever saw. They only scored 19 runs in 11 games, but the last 2 games of wins over the Braves, they scored 19 runs combined. So the hitting seems to be back. And, unfortunately, you mentioned the pitching, and that's been a problem. As you know, when you're developing pitching, that's the last thing to come along. Burgess, the 23-year-old rookie, pitched a complete game against Atlanta the other day. He looks like he's pretty good, but the starters really have been a disappointment, and that's the difference. You can't win if you have to outslug everybody every night, and that's partially why the Orioles are below 500.
That and being in the division they're in where it's just so tough. But you do have, as you said, especially Adam Jones, who came over in the Bedard trade, who is a legitimate budding superstar. I mean, folks, who've seen him. If for the Met fans who don't watch Yankee games, this guy is a budding superstar, and he and Markakis together have both been, along with Roberts, in the leaders for runs scored all year. He's got 12 homers. He's hitting .325. He does everything. Markakis, same thing. I mean, and, listen, Huff, who people have been talking about as a candidate to come to the Mets. Roberts, who everybody knows. And then you mentioned the 2 young guys. You mentioned the catcher, who people think is a terrific prospect. And then there's Nolan Reimold, who has, I know, won a game with a home run. He won a game against Toronto with a home run in the inning with that crazy game that Halladay started and had the 5-run lead, and they came back and won that game with the walk-off homer. He's had 7 homers and 100 at-bats, so, I mean, he's done a heck of a job, right?
Yeah, he's an intriguing guy because he was drafted just in 2005, and our current scouting director, Joe Jordan, that was his first draft, and he came along very slowly because he kept getting hurt. He had one of those famous hitter oblique injuries that kept him out half a year, and finally last year he had his first full healthy season when he was in Double-A ball, and he was in Double-A last year, and he had 25 home runs. He almost led the Eastern League in home runs. They added him to the 40-man roster in the offseason, brought him to spring training. He actually had a pretty good camp, but they wanted him to go to Triple-A and prove that he was ready. And then when they brought him up, he's been hitting right out of the box, and he had 9 home runs in Triple-A, so he's really got 16 home runs this year. And that ballpark in Norfolk is not an easy park to hit home runs in, where the Orioles have their Triple-A team. So he's one of these guys that they drafted out of college. They thought he would develop into a power hitter. They forced him to come along slowly, and Andy's pretty good about that. Andy's the type of executive that let you show me when you're ready, and then you know what? Do it for another couple of weeks, and then maybe we'll talk about it. You know, he wants these guys. It's a friendly competition with the depth he's built, and Reimold fits right in with there. And he's only 23 years old, so he's a guy that they now can build around. Because the one thing you can't teach, as you know, Mike, you can't teach power.
No, he's got big time. He's got big time power, and the catcher who people think is going to be Whiters is going to be a great. Could be a great catcher. How about this kid? What kind of is he? Most catchers are. Is he a take charge kind of guy, Jimmy?
I believe he will be. I think right now he's only been in the big leagues a couple of weeks. I think he's just trying to fit in. He replaced Greg Zahn, who's been around forever, as the starter. When Zahn signed to come back here this year, he was told, when Wieters is ready, you become the backup. We don't know when that day is, but we're telling you right now that's going to happen. So do you still want to come here and be this kid's mentor? And he said, absolutely.